Have you ever wondered what the clave is and why it's so important in salsa music? Well, in this video, we'll learn about the 3 steps to understanding the clave better as salsa dancers. So if you want to know what this clave is all about, then you've come to the right place. And stay tuned for a special bonus at the end. But first, welcome to Salsa Goals, a channel designed to break down salsa music and dance concepts so that you can build up a strong foundation on the dance floor. So let's get started. If you are a salsa dancing enthusiast, then there are 3 main things that you need to understand about the clave. First, what is the clave? Second, how does it affect the music? And third, how should it influence our dancing? So let's tackle that first question. What is the clave? In Spanish, the word clave means key, and when it comes to salsa music, the clave is like the key to unlocking the rhythm. So what does the clave sound like? Well, listen closely to the music in the background because you can hear it right now. It sounds like this. In some salsa songs, you'll be able to hear the clave rhythm being played specifically, like right now. But in other songs, you might not hear the clave specifically. However, you can still detect the clave rhythm because it's embedded in some of the other rhythmic patterns. So how do we define the clave? Well, remember that the music is divided into units called measures, and each measure of music has 4 beats. It takes 2 of those measures together, or 8 beats of music, in order to complete the basic salsa timing step. But the same thing applies to the clave. It takes 2 of those measures together in order to complete the full clave rhythm. But although it takes a full 2 measures, or 8 beats, to complete the clave rhythm, the clave itself is only made up of 5 beats. So if the first measure of music has 2 clave beats, and the other measure has 3 clave beats, then the clave has a 2-3 direction, also known as reverse clave. In fact, the clave that you are hearing right now is a 2-3 clave. However, other songs might use a 3-2 clave direction, also known as forward clave. This is when the first measure of music has 3 clave beats and the next measure has 2 clave beats. So to sum it up, the clave can have 2 directions, either 2-3 or 3-2. But let's take a closer look at the structure of the clave. First, we'll divide each beat into 2 halves. In other words, instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we'll count out each beat like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and. So let's count out the 2-3 clave. On the 2 side, the clave will hit beat number 2 and beat number 3. And on the 3 side, the clave will hit beat number 5, beat number 6.5, and beat number 8. If the clave were 3-2, then on the 3 side, the clave will hit beat number 1, beat number 2.5, and beat number 4. And on the 2 side, the clave will hit beat number 6 and beat number 7. But besides the fact that the clave has 2 directions, there are also different types of claves out there. However, salsa music mainly uses 2 types of clave, and the type of clave that you are hearing in the song playing right now is known as a 2-3 son clave. In fact, this son clave is the most commonly used type of clave in salsa music. But salsa musicians sometimes use another type of clave known as rumba clave. So when it comes to son clave and rumba clave, what's the difference? Well, not much. In fact, they're almost identical except for one small difference on the last beat of the 3 side of the clave. For example, while the 3 side of son clave hits beat number 1, beat number 2.5, and beat number 4, the 3 side of rumba clave hits beat number 1, beat number 2.5, and beat number 4.5. So basically, the last beat on the 3 side of a rumba clave is half a beat later than it is in son clave. And now, it's time for that special bonus. Don't forget about the pulse. The clave is arguably the king of all rhythms in salsa because it's so important. But there is another rhythm behind the scenes that may be even more fundamental to the music itself, and that rhythm is called the pulse. We can't completely understand the clave without understanding its relationship with the pulse. The pulse is like a metronome that helps all the musicians stay in sync with each other. But instead of hitting every beat in a measure of music like a metronome does, the pulse hits every other beat. So, out of the 8 beats that we count, the pulse hits all the odd-numbered beats. These beats, 1, 3, 5, and 7, are referred to as the strong beats of the song and are also known as the song's core beats. However, like a secret agent, the pulse often goes unnoticed, working behind the scenes. That's because you can't always hear the rhythm of the pulse in a salsa song. Sometimes you can though, especially when an instrument like the cowbell, also known as the campana, is played. But the pulse is like the foundation of a house, because even though you can't see it when looking at the house from the outside, that foundation is the most important part of the house. After all, it's what the house was built on. In the same way, the pulse defines the structure of the rhythm. It's what allows all of the musicians to play in sync with each other, because it tells them where beat number 1 is so that they can start the song at the same time. And it also tells them what the tempo of the song is so that they can all play at the same speed. So even if you can't hear it, and even if all of the attention is on the clave, the pulse is what gives the rhythm a strong foundation. In fact, sometimes before playing a song, the band leader will set the pulse like this. This is referred to as the count off, and it's very important because the band leader is really establishing the pulse of the song. The literal count would be 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the song would begin. Therefore, as you can see, the pulse helps to maintain the stability of the clave so that the musicians can all play in sync with each other. To sum it up, the clave gives salsa music its unique flavor, its sabor. But in order for that to happen, the pulse gives the song its basic rhythmic structure, like the foundation of a house. So now that we know what the clave is and what it sounds like, how does it affect the music? And exactly how does it give salsa that unique rhythmic flavor? Well, you definitely don't want to miss part 2 of this video series, so stay tuned. And until next time, stay safe, stay connected to the music, y sobre todo, que viva la salsa.